Good afternoon. Welcome to an abbreviated version of Introduction to EFT. I've been requested to do this class a couple of different times because people have missed it. So I wanted to not give the full 1 hour presentation, but I wanted to give an overview of emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping. So the people that are interested in seeing it and want to start utilizing it for themselves have a little bit of background and knowledge and can start working with EFT on their own. And hopefully you can make one of my upcoming classes. So the goal for today is to have a basic understanding of the benefits of emotional freedom techniques, or EFT, but also, and the most important goal, is to really be able to empower you to use EFT for yourself, to understand how to use a setup statement, how to construct a setup statement, and where to do the tapping points. So EFT is a series of techniques that we use to help people shift their limiting beliefs or to help them neutralize emotional charges that come from past, present, or future events. It helps reduce the stress hormone, cortisol, and it's been shown to actually change the brain patterns. So when we get stuck in a place, our brain starts making relationships between the emotion that we're feeling now and past circumstances, past beliefs, or something that's patterned into our brain that can bring an emotional charge around a situation. By doing this technique, it can help get you unstuck, and it can help bring calmness, clarity, confidence, courage, and also an ability to choose what your actions are going to be. So instead of coming from a place of emotional upheaval, worry, stress, fear, we can actually come from our own center and our own beliefs and we can actually make proper choices. Proper being the choice that's best for us as an individual at a point in time. So it really empowers you to work with your own healing process. Now, if you're working with something very big, like a trauma or a limiting belief, it's usually best if you work with a professional. Because even though you can work with specific arguments or fears on your own, often these will lead back to something that's very emotionally charged that maybe needs some help, that you may need someone help sussing out. So where did this come from? What's the root? Perhaps what was implanted in our heads from before the age of 5 or 6 when it came in on a subconscious level. So by being able to use a professional to help you unwind that piece, we can also work with multiple situations at the same time and prevent some things from becoming so emotionally charged in the future. EFT, through the studies, has been shown to be beneficial for reducing and discharging and neutralizing emotions around current, past, and future events, as I mentioned. It can control or eliminate cravings. It can decrease physical discomforts, including pain, because often our body and our mind are very well connected. So often our pain can be linked to an emotion that we're working with. It can reduce or eliminate fears and phobias, such as fear of heights, fear of spiders, fear of snakes, and it can help people find the blocks behind their affirmations or goals. So if you feel like you've been trying to reach a goal and there's something in your way, or you've been doing these affirmations and it just doesn't seem to be working out for you, we can actually use EFT to uncover the block behind or the belief behind the affirmation that's preventing us from moving forward in the way that we want. So there's lots of stress research that shows how EFT reduces cortisol levels. There was an anxiety study done by Bond University where EFT was shown to be more effective on a quicker scale than cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is why a lot of therapists and counselors and psychotherapists and social workers and healing practitioners such as myself are beginning to use EFT with their practice with their clients. So that way they can move more powerfully through their situations and really take charge of their own emotional state. As I mentioned, the 5 C's of EFT define calm, clarity, courage, confidence, and choice. So to nail it down very specifically, in order to have a successful EFT self-care session, what you want to do is identify a specific event in time. So that could be right now I'm feeling stressed out and I feel it in my stomach, right? Or it can be thinking about the argument that I had with my sister last week, right? We can't change how we felt about something in the past, but we can change how we feel about it right now. So if you think about something in the past and there's no body sensation, there's no emotional charge to it, perhaps it's not the best place for you to start. But we're going to find the specific event. We're going to find out what we feel about it right now, where in our body we feel it, and then you're going to rate that from 0 to 10, 0 being non-existent and 10 being overwhelming. The reason why we do this is to make sure that when we're doing our tapping on ourselves, that there's actually a shift, right? That our intensity levels are changing, or our feelings are changing, or our body sensation is dropping. And the reason why that's important is that if none of those things are happening, we either need to get more specific about the event, or there might be something else that we need to narrow in on or focus on in order to create the changes in our brain in order to make EFT more successful. So identifying the event, like I said, it should be as specific and detailed as possible. So I might say, oh, those times that I fought with my sister. If I think about that, all the times I fought with my sister are going to come up in my brain, and it's too overwhelming. It's too much information, and my body really can't process that. And it can actually cause emotional upheaval. So you say, well, yesterday when I was fighting with my sister, that's more specific, and that could be specific enough for some people. But is there something that she said or something that happened during that fight that really is what got to me? Was it about the fight itself, or was it about something she said? So for example, a more specific event would be yesterday when I was fighting with my sister, and she said, well, that was stupid. And I went, oh, that makes me angry, right? So if I can't picture, like if you tell me an event and I can't picture what happened, the event is probably not specific enough. So when we do our setup statement, so our setup statement is basically the core of what we're going to be working with. And it always starts by honoring what is. So even though I feel, and then whatever the emotion is that you're feeling right now, where do you feel it in your body? In my stomach, in my chest, as a fluttering in my system, as a tension in my jaw, right? So we're honoring what is. So even though I feel, using the example of my sister, so even though I feel anger in my throat, thinking about when she said that was stupid, that would be our setup statement. The second half of any setup statement is a self-acceptance phrase. So it can be, I deeply and completely accept myself, or I'm open to accepting myself, or I accept that I feel this way, or I'm open to coming to terms with it. Or perhaps I know my body's feeling this for a reason, or I honor how I feel. It can be anything that feels like it's positive in the moment. It should not be, or it can be less effective if the setup statement is, I'm hoping I'll get over it one day, right? Or I guess this is just the way things go, right? We don't want it to have that negative connotation, and we also don't want it to have any nots or no's or those kinds of words. Some people and some practitioners use the word love, like I deeply love and accept myself. And that's great if that resonates with you and your own words. But for a lot of people, loving oneself can be a little bit tricky, and it can make the statement not as effective. So if love feels like something you want to throw in and it feels aligned and powerful for you, great. And if it doesn't, use something else. Because the best setup statements, the best use of EFT is when you're using your own feelings, your own words, however those look like. So the setup statement will be repeated 3 times while you tap the side of your hand. Now, if you watch YouTube videos or you watch other videos, each practitioner has a little bit, there are different versions, right? We call this emotional freedom techniques with an S because there are many different techniques, not only for individual practitioners, but for different circumstances. So for example, if I'm working with someone with a trauma versus someone with a craving versus someone with a body pain, there's actually different techniques that I would use when I'm working with them. What we're working with today is the most basic setup statement and the most basic practice of EFT. And this is the one that is being used for a lot of the research around EFT. And that's why I like teaching it to people, is because it's simple, it's straightforward, and it's one that the research is being done on, so we can prove its efficacy with other people. So the full EFT process. So you're going to start out tapping the side of the hand and doing your setup statement. So I'm going to evaluate my anger at my sister with that argument yesterday. Let's say it's at a 5. So the setup statement would be, even though I feel this anger in my throat, thinking about the fight yesterday with my sister, when she said, well, that's stupid, I deeply and completely accept how I feel. So even though when I think about the fight yesterday with my sister and she said, that was stupid, I feel anger in my throat, I deeply and completely accept myself. So even though I feel this anger in my throat, when I think about the fight yesterday with my sister and she said, that was stupid, I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay. So you can see, you can change the words a little bit as long as it has the event, the emotion, and where you're feeling it. So once you do that 3 times, the rest of it is just honoring the emotion and where you feel it. So the first place is the top of the head. I would say the anger in my throat. And then the next spot is between the eyebrows. So you can do this one-sided or two-sided. People like doing different things, so you can do both sides at once, or you can do only one side. Say this anger in my throat. The next spot is the side of the eye, right at the temple. This anger in my throat. And then under the eye, right on the cheekbone. This anger in my throat. Next is under the nose. This anger in my throat. Next point, just under the mouth. This anger in my throat. The next point is in the collarbones. So if you find your collarbones, there's kind of a soft spot on either side of your sternum. So this one, we do want to hit both sides. So you can do it two-handed or you can do it one-handed, right? Whatever feels most comfortable for you. This anger in my throat. And the last spot is under the arm or the side of the ribs. So if you kind of go under your armpit, about midway down the chest, for women, it's kind of where their bra would sit, right? This anger in my throat. So that's the full process. Then you just pause, breathe. You can take a sip of water that helps reset the brain and evaluate the level of intensity. So has my intensity of my anger gone from a 5 down? Or has the intensity of the sensation in my throat changed? Or maybe now it's not anger, maybe now it's frustration. And my frustration level is at a 5, or it can go up because sometimes when we suppress emotions, the emotional state can go up. So maybe my anger now is at a 7 because I'm really thinking about her saying that I was stupid. And that was okay. The key is that it's changed somehow. And that's how we know that we have an effective process. So then I would repeat this process until I'm down to 0. So let's say my anger went up to 7, I'd repeat the exact same thing I did. If my anger changed to frustration, I would then start all over with, even though I'm feeling this frustration in my throat, thinking about the fight yesterday with my sister, I deeply and completely accept how I feel. So that's the full basic EFT process. The reason why EFT is also so powerful is that when we have a belief, it creates an attitude of how we see the world and how we interact with it, right? Which creates a behavior. which creates a result which reinforces the belief. So when we work with EFT, we break this cycle of the belief moving to an attitude, the behavior, the result. By actually going back and changing the belief and the energy around it, we can change all of these things and break the full cycle for ourselves and for the future. So maybe next time now when my sister says, oh, that was stupid, I don't have this link to all the other times she said, oh, that was stupid, because that's been emotionally neutralized. And so I can hear her say, oh, that's stupid. And I can be like, huh, well, that's her own belief, or that's her own situation, right? She's projecting outward, or whatever it is, right? So we can find our own individual emotional freedom when we use this technique effectively to clear our emotional charges from things in the past. But if you have any questions, please email me. My email is dawn@touchremedies.com. You can also find me on Facebook. You can go to our Touch Remedies Facebook group and contact me from there. I would love to help you set up a statement if you're having problems as well. So also, if you go to my website, there's an EFT, now I can't remember what it's called, but you can set up basically a 15-minute session with me where we go over questions about your EFT, about your setup statements if they don't feel like they're moving you. I do usually charge $35 for a 20-minute session for that. However, I'm willing to offer one complimentary session for anyone that's taken and paid for this class. Remember, healing may not be so much about getting better as it is about letting go of everything that isn't you, all of the expectations, all of the beliefs, and becoming more of who you are. So once again, my name is Dawn Bennett with Touch Remedies, helping you deepen your connection with yourself, your others, and your community. Have a really lovely day.